There is nothing worse than launching a test only for players not to follow instructions, or even give feedback around the aspects that are important for you at this current development sprint. You really want feedback that educates and aligns your team in the right direction. In this series, we'll be looking at how you combine briefs and tasks to help guide a player through a series of activities, and also how to improve the feedback that they provide as they play moment to moment in the gameplay. And at the end of the series, we will also look at how to capture quality survey insight that will help you make those really informed decisions so that you can make the best decisions possible when making your game. The purpose of a test brief is to guide people and put them at ease around the set of activities that you want them to undertake and the type of feedback that you want from them to improve your game. However, it's very easy to forget this and then create a brief that looks like an instruction manual. And if we take into consideration that this is displayed before they even set up their game in the Contribute app, it can make it very difficult for people to retain that information and remember that when they go to take part. So if you do have a complex setup where you have people you're trying to educate what they need to do during the gameplay, you really need to separate that from the brief and move that into tasks. So when thinking about a brief, you need to make sure it is really only covering the high-level activities that you want them to take. It is very much bullet pointed, so it's concise and not overwhelming from a text point of view. And you want to make sure that people understand what you expect from them to help guide them on that journey for the first time. Briefs are a great way to provide people an overview of your test. However, when it comes to improving the quality of insight that you get from every single participant, we need to start implementing tasks. And these tasks should be really focused around the goals and objectives of your playtest. It should really focus in on what you want people to do as they take part and play the game, and also what type of feedback do you want at each stage of that journey. It's really critical that the task title be very clear, concise, and have no terminology that may confuse people. For example, you could have people just state, explore the game and defeat 3 enemies. That is clear and obviously understandable for everyone. Then when it comes to the description, you do want to make sure you're reinforcing the requirements in a concise way, and also making sure that you're providing some guidelines around the feedback that you want to know during that period of time. And you want to make sure that you're giving people the right topics for them to surface that as they take part and play. You really have to remember that these people taking part in your playtests may never have done anything like this before and need a wee bit of extra guidance to remind them to give feedback around what is important to you. And then finally, within a task, you need to make sure that you're also outlining any known issues that might prevent them from taking part, because you've got to remember that you won't be there to hold their hands and help them through that problem. The majority of people can feel very comfortable creating a survey. However, if you want in-depth feedback and you want to make sure it's accurate, you need to ensure your survey is structured in a way to help the player reflect on their experience reliably. Now, to achieve this, you really want to break your survey into 3 sections: a top, middle, and bottom. Now, the top should really capture the raw reactions of a player. It should then also have some broad questions just to open the player's mind back up to the experience. Nothing challenging, questions like, did you experience any confusion today? And that helps the player reflect on that experience before you start going into the middle section. Within the middle section, you're really focusing on the core questions that you want to know about this test. But one of the important things you really need to remember is, what was the participant journey as they went through your experience? It's critical that you organize those questions in the right order of a player coming from their point of view. For example, if onboarding was the first thing that they did, then you should start off with onboarding questions. Then you should maybe go into controls just to see how it's initially feeling. And then if, say, you go into combat, you should then introduce your combat questions. and then say story was at the end of the game as they got sort of everything started to unfold, then you really want to have story as your final section within that middle. And that way, what you're doing is you're helping the player just sort of slowly walk back through that game in their head, and also what was that experience. At the same time, within each one of those core sections, you do want to make sure that you're grouping all of the questions in that category together. So if you've got 4 combat questions, don't spread them out within your survey. Keep them in the one area when people are focused on that one subject matter. That again will help them open up. And ideally, it should be a general question followed by more narrowed questions to a specific area that you're interested in. And in the final section really is all about just getting those interests and motivations. Now that they've had time to go through all of the other questions, they've fully reflected on it, and they can probably give you an accurate read whether they do want to keep playing this or what are they interested in. And you can even ask other questions about, like, how does this compare against other games that I've played? Now, to finish up, we should really remember the key things. 1, surveys should be structured to help recall and also make sure that you have reliable data or feedback from people. 2, you should have that structure from a top, a middle, and a bottom, starting off with raw reactions, moving into core questions and focuses to open up that person's mind, and finishing off with those final viewpoints and thoughts. By doing it in that order, you're going to make sure that people give you great feedback and also help you make those informed decisions as you move into the next stage of your development.
Surface more insight faster with Go Testify Intelligence.